Alimony is a form of support that's paid from one spouse to another spouse. So in the state of Tennessee, we have four different types of alimony. We have what's called alimony in futuro, and that's more like permanent alimony. And then what that is, it's basically we look at that in longer term marriages, or also say if we have a spouse that has become disabled or is disabled who cannot support themselves. So you're looking at that on a more long term basis. That is no longer favored as much in the state of Tennessee as it once was. The second type of alimony we have is called alimony in solido, which means basically a lump sum of alimony. So a lot of times we will look at that, say if there's a large asset, such as a house that's to be sold, and one spouse is the economically disadvantaged spouse, we may look at giving them a lump sum of money to satisfy that alimony requirement. Then there's two more types of alimony in the state of Tennessee that are more favored, and the first one is rehabilitative alimony, and the second one is transitional alimony. With rehabilitative alimony, we're looking at how do we really rehabilitate the economically disadvantaged spouse. And when I say economically disadvantaged, we're really looking at, does one spouse need the money and does the other spouse have the ability to pay it? So a lot of times we will be looking at each party's sworn affidavit of income and expenses per month. So that is, what are you spending per month versus what are you bringing in? So let's say, for example, that one spouse needs an extra $5,000 a month and the other spouse has an extra $20,000 a month. So also with rehabilitative alimony, we may be looking at that person who needs the money per month. Have they looked into what it would take to either go back to school or get some type of training to where they can get a job and then support themselves? So a lot of times we might look at what that training cost or what that education cost, and also what's it going to cost to support their basic monthly needs during that period. Then the other type of alimony that the courts tend to favor is transitional alimony, and it's just that, it's to transition a spouse from a lifestyle that they're used to with possibly two incomes to living on a single income. And how long do we think that it would take to transition them into that new lifestyle so that they can then become able to start paying their bills on a monthly basis? So the main two factors that the courts are going to look at with alimony is, does somebody need it and how much do they need per month, and does the other person have the ability to pay and how much can they pay per month? The court's also going to look at, one of the major things is the duration of the marriage. The court's going to look at how long the parties were married. Was it a short-term marriage? Was it a long-term marriage? The court's also going to look at fault in the breakup of the marriage and consider that as well in determining whether or not to award alimony. There's other factors the court will look at, such as everyone's education level, their ages, their health conditions. So that's where it's important to have an attorney on your side that's knowledgeable about those factors. There are certain types of alimony in the state of Tennessee that can be modified, and sometimes, for example, the courts might modify alimony if the recipient of the alimony is living with, say, a new paramour or somebody they're in a relationship with. At that point, court may modify certain types of alimony. Obviously, alimony may also terminate or be modified upon remarriage of the person receiving the alimony. Yeah, so sometimes certain types of alimony that can be modified if people have job changes that aren't voluntary. So you can't be ordered to go pay alimony and then just quit your job. But if circumstances changes, because a lot of times people who are paying alimony, and more specifically people who might be paying what I call permanent alimony, they get to a point that they retire, then obviously their income changes and they might ask for the court to modify that alimony award. So in the state of Tennessee, there's no set guidelines that say how often alimony is awarded. It is a very case-by-case, it's very specific case-by-case. It's not like child support where we have a formula that we use. It's really up to the trial court if the parties can't reach an agreement on themselves. There's no amount that's set as a limit like we get with child support. So alimony in the state of Tennessee is very fact-driven. It is different in each case. So just because something happened in one case, or say with your friend's case, that doesn't mean it will necessarily happen in your case. And that's why it's very important that you talk with a knowledgeable attorney who really understands the alimony laws in the state of Tennessee. And if this is something you're facing, please feel free to give us a call at Mandy Hancock Law.